Well, good morning to you. Welcome into my house. My being Dan Gresham, this being my house. Actually, it's you're in the studio this morning. And when I say studio, I don't necessarily just mean television broadcast, live stream. It serves as all kinds of studio. It's a paint studio as well. You know, we want to throw something on canvas. This is the room that we use. So I'm glad you're here this morning. Hope you got a good day going for yourself. And most importantly, I hope that you're enjoying this fall weather that we have been waiting for. Finally, it's like, okay, tell me no more 95s. Tell me no more 90s, at least for a few months. Let me enjoy some great, cool weather. And I think it's here. So we're going to enjoy it the best that we can. If you are joining us on the live stream this morning, we always encourage you, join by telling us that you're watching, where you're watching. You say good morning. You can say, I have a question. You can tell me that, there's something going on in your neighborhood. Whatever it is, doesn't matter to me. Always glad to see you. Always enjoy knowing who's here, who's in the community. And that's what we've created. This started, 7 or 8 months ago when we were essentially locked down. And we thought, well, if we're going to be at home and we can't be at the office as much as we want, and we can't be on the air as much as we want, at least we can have conversation with each other on another platform. And this is that platform. Now, also know this, we have also posted all of these, or we at least trying to, on our YouTube page, which is Dan's at Home. So if you want to go to YouTube, you subscribe there, you'll get the notifications, and you'll know that we're out there. All right, so you can certainly do that. And of course, we also take your comments, as I mentioned. We'll check on some of those in just a moment. We're also going to talk about the fact that today is the last early voting day. So if you put it off, and you're part of the procrastinators club, and you but mine's by design. I said this earlier. I'm not voting or haven't voted yet because I like being part of the process on election day. I like that feeling like you get up and you go, it's election day, I'm going to go vote. And I know early voting probably gives you that same kind of sensation or that same feeling, but for me, there's just something about doing it on the actual election day. I just like that. Let's see who's out there this morning. Say good morning. George Dearborn. Morning, George. It's been a while since we've talked. I know you're doing well because I keep catching up with you through various friends. And if you don't know George, you get out there and check some of the local clubs, check into his music. He's been playing for a long time, and he is a fine musician. And always worth your time if you can find him at one of the local clubs. George, nice to have you with us this morning. Jenna Williams, always good to see you around as well. Coffee time. They ever show you that I don't drink out of a cup? I drink out of a thermos because I need at least that much coffee to get my day started. A cup is not going to cut it, especially at 1:30 a.m. It is not going to cut it at all. Chason, good to have you with us this morning. Beverly Ann is up with us as well this morning. Tammy Laughlin says she's up with us this morning. She's back in Lumberton. Hi, Daryl. Hope everything is going good with you this morning. Linda Ryan says, what's wrong with the Fox station? I can't hear the voice. I don't know. It's a funny thing about being on television. You never know what it's like on the other side. Yeah, so I really don't know. Monique Richards says, good morning. John Nickel has an opinion this morning. He says, we have a known child molester and pornographer on the loose and no one is arresting him. Okay, so he's calling Hunter Biden that. I see that now. Why aren't you reporting on this huge story? Well, we actually, John, if you were watching this morning, we did have a story on the investigation into Hunter Biden. Lucille Armator, good morning from Port Arthur. Thanks for keeping us informed. You bet. That's what we want to do. And thank you for checking us out. Good morning, Mary. Good to see you this morning. Teal says, missed you all week. So sorry. Needle in Texas loves you. Happy Halloween. Well, same to you. Hope you have a great weekend. Enjoy the weather. Good morning from Warren on this great cool morning. Yep, second cup of coffee. Why not? Out on the back porch, someplace that you can really enjoy it. Absolutely. Linda, good morning to you. Hope all is well. Mary, good morning to you. Vanessa Brooks, glad you're up with us this morning. Tom, watching from Lumberton, Texas. Well, Tom, it's good to have you with us this morning, whether you're in Illinois or whether you're here with us. It's all good. Ruth Yancey says she's watching from Tennessee. Cold here this morning, 46. You know, Ruth, you didn't have to go all the way to Tennessee to get 46. We actually were in those kind of temperatures here in Southeast Texas this morning when we started the day. I talked to my parents yesterday, and I count myself very lucky. My parents, are still alive, so I get a chance to visit with them. I wish we were in the same city so that I could see them more often. But we talk, and I was asking them, and they were telling me it hadn't been above like 54 yesterday for their high, and they're just up in Northeast Texas. So, yeah. Fall has finally come to the Lone Star State for sure. Christy, good morning to you. Also, Dixie Daigle, good to have you with us this morning. Hi, Carlene. Always good to have you with us. Terry, good morning. Steve Palmer is up with us this morning as well, as is Darlene Roberts Carmona. She says good morning from Lumberton, having a cup of hot cocoa this morning. Now, do you do the powdered cocoa? Are you the one that, I can remember my grandma, she always made it with the Hershey's cocoa. Remember that? With the dark brown wrapper around in the tin? Yeah. I never was good at that one. She was always good at that. Who else is up this morning? Oh, Roger's up. He says, good morning from Call. Well, good morning back at you in Call. Randall Smith, good morning from Port Arthur. And it's good to have all of you. As I mentioned, I appreciate every single person who invest, even if you only invest a couple of minutes. I don't expect anybody to stay with us for, a prolonged period of time. It's nice if you do, but I don't know. I never really expect that. I don't. My expectations are not real high. I'll be honest with you. My theory has always been, if you keep them low and they exceed the expectations, then that's a bonus. You've been gifted, right? Hey, do me a favor, since you're up with us this morning and you're here, just give us a thumbs up, a like, if you will. It goes a long way, just towards, pushing things towards corporate and letting them know that people are still watching the at-home update. And it encourages me at the same time to keep doing it as well. Also this morning, one more, Jimmy Field just checked in. So good morning, Jimmy. Glad you're up with us this morning. All right, let's jump into what's happening in the headlines this morning. We're going to start things off as we always do at kfdm.com. It's a good place, jumping off point to find out what's happening in the headlines. Angel San Juan, a great story last night. If you have not seen it, take the time to watch it this morning. This is at plummeting grades and low attendance among students participating in virtual learning. I don't think this will come as a surprise to a whole lot of people. Not necessarily a bombshell. You know what I'm saying? Because if you have a student that's going through the virtual learning, whether it's your child or your grandchild, it became pretty apparent what a struggle it was going to be. Because I thought it was very good. There's a mom featured in the story, and there's also an educator featured in the story, and then there's also the man who is in charge of one of the local education agencies, one of the regional office in Region 5, and he was talking about put yourself in the place of the kids. Put yourself in place of the kids. Can you imagine? All right, as you maybe to put it this way, a Zoom meeting. You're at work, you have to do a Zoom meeting. If you've never done one, you're sitting on the computer, you've got 6 people in front of you, and you're all looking at each other and trying not to look like you're uninterested in what's going on. And you do a 20-minute Zoom meeting, and you're like, okay, I'm exhausted now, I've had enough. You're gone. But for these kids, if they're getting their instruction virtually rather than face-to-face in person, can you imagine? So they do an hour of Zoom with the teacher and all the other students. Take a break, come back, do another, and then you repeat that 4 or 5 times? No wonder they're zoning out. No wonder they're not. But my question is, and I would love Angel to go back, or maybe we'll talk to some of those education professionals, why is it people who homeschool can be successful? And many of them are using programs that are software or they're virtual learning programs. But yet we're struggling with it in public schools. And I'm sure there's a reason. First of all, public schools were not set up and built to be virtual platforms. They were built to be in person. And even at that, we all knew that they had shortfalls. Even educators will acknowledge that. But now you put it into a situation where they're trying to create a platform to teach virtually. It's tough. I mean, it's very tough. Very, very tough. So anyway, it's a great story. Go check it out. You'll be glad you did. Invested a little bit of time, and I think that you'll get a return on that investment. Also this morning, we're updating the story that we broke yesterday morning on the morning show about the train derailment in Mauriceville. And it's interesting to me that a lot of people, I don't think, understand. And I was talking about this yesterday on the air when we were breaking this story, the fact that I've spent a lot of time, over the last 40 years around first responders and firemen and fire chiefs and different fire agencies, and been in meetings where, they talked about their worst nightmare. And quite honestly, this is one of them, a train derailment. And you may be asking yourself, why would that be? Well, because if you look at these pictures, and we had some there's some wild video here of we actually had somebody send us video of the derailment while it was happening, right? But as you look in there, there are 25 cars that have come off the track. You look right here, those are tank cars, box cars. But in those tank cars, you have no idea what's in there. Is it butadiene? Is it some kind of a chemical stock that they're using in the refineries? Is it a finished product? You don't know until you get there. So, yes, there should have been a lot of concern. But back to my original point, the nightmare for these fire chiefs and for volunteer firemen is, again, you don't know until you get onto the scene and you can actually read the placard on each one of these tank cars what they contain. The fear being that if you had some kind of a toxic spill, what a nightmare that would be. It's one thing if it's, a corrosive product. It's another thing if it is, maybe an oil and gas or a finished product. But it's another thing if it were. That's why there was so much concern yesterday. And that's why you say, well, why would they even, bother evacuating? Because they did. They evacuated the middle school and the elementary school in a 1-mile radius around the same. Why? Because you have to act in an abundance of caution until you know exactly what you've got. And that's what they did yesterday. And now comes the cleanup, right? So it's not going to be one of these things where in 12 hours you've got 25 train cars back on the track and everything's back to normal. You can imagine what it's going to take. You've either got to empty the cars or you've got to have a crane big enough that can pick. There are a lot of variables that are going to be at work. So they're there, they're doing it. We do know that they have reduced the size of the evacuation area. So a lot of people have been able to go back to their homes. 2,200 people lost power because one of those derailed cars took out a whole power line. So that was another issue that was going on yesterday. And those two schools today, by the way, are doing virtual learning because they can't get back into the building. So that was another big story that we had for you yesterday. And we'll continue to follow up, as you can imagine, on today. Somebody asked about the Hunter Biden story. It's there this morning if you want. We also had both a story on both the Republican and Democratic parties in Southeast Texas, what they're doing as we come down to the final days. Again, 4 days until the election, and it's only really, again, here's the Houston Chronicle story of the day. Today is the last day of early voting in Texas. The numbers have been record-setting. They really have. All voting locations open at 7 a.m. this morning. They'll be open to 7 p.m. in Harris County and every other county that I know of in Southeast Texas. But essentially, you got 12 hours now to go vote, or you're going to have to wait until Election Day. And here's the amazing thing. As of the end of Thursday, 1,344,915,000 people had cast ballots in Harris County, breaking all-time voter turnout record set in 2016. It broke the early voting record on October the 26th, but it's breaking the all-time voting record. So obviously there are a lot of people that are making the effort to get out, okay, and see what's going on. While we're talking about the election, another good article that you might want to check out while you've got time this weekend is the Texas Tribune. They've got, I think, a very interesting article that says what you should watch and what you should ignore while the votes are being counted in Texas. It's been an election season like no other, writes Matthew Watkins. Brace yourself for the results process that lasts longer than in recent elections. More than 8 million Texans have already voted. And, when it comes time to count those votes, the question is, what happens? Polls close at 7 o'clock Central Time. And as soon as they do, you're going to start getting results. You're going to start getting early vote counts. They'll come in almost immediately. Those won't be a problem. It'll be the votes that you get on election day. But would you agree that it looks like, and it's very possible, that the majority of the people who are going to vote in this election may have done so early? It may not be one of those situations where everyone waits until the last day and then goes and votes on election day. When you look at the vote totals, you kind of have to believe that. But anyway, this is a good article because it will kind of give you an idea that you shouldn't necessarily be sitting there waiting at 7 o'clock thinking, okay, as soon as they come in, it's over. Because there's a lot of suggestion that's not going to be the case at all. And we'll obviously, on KFDM and KBTV Fox 4, we will do election results. We'll keep you up to date. But it's not just the presidential races that we're watching. We're also watching local races. You have sheriff's race, you have constable races, you have county commissioners races, you have city elections going on. So there's a lot to watch, and we'll have it all for you beginning at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and then we'll update periodically. And of course, on the morning show the following day, we'll have all the latest. Hopefully by then, who knows? Who knows if we will actually know who has won the presidential election by the next morning. Yeah, that'll be interesting to see what happens. All right. I know you have things to do. Me too. One thing I was going to share you with, just the reminder. Yep, this is the weekend. This is USA Today. When does the time change in 2020? Well, here's when we fall back for daylight savings time. And they're already talking about daylight saving time looking forward. But I'm more concerned about setting my clock back on Sunday. Because going backwards, I mean, it's okay. I don't have a problem. Great. It gets light a little bit earlier. But the problem being, it gets dark a little earlier, too. Did you see what? Because I made note of it this morning. 6:31. That's sunset today. So if you extrapolate from that, go forward to Monday, that means when you get off at 5:31 on Monday, it's going to be dark. So if you're one of those people that you like to go home, maybe get, something done before you have to come inside, maybe, get the grass cut, maybe, I don't know, whatever it is that you like, take a walk, you're going to be hard pressed to do it without being in the dark. I'm not a big fan of changing. I wish we just had one and it stayed that way. It's just me. Instead of having to go backwards and then forwards and then backwards again. It just would be a little bit simpler, I guess. One thing you don't have to adjust to. But anyway, that's this weekend, so don't forget. Otherwise, you wind up being really early for a whole lot of meetings. Or late. Either way. But again, enjoy the weather this weekend. It's going to be really nice straight on through. So go out and make the most of it. Enjoy your time. Again, as always, thank you for yours. Do want to remind you real quickly, there are several ways that you can follow us. You can do so on Facebook at KFDM News, as you're doing now. Also on Twitter, Morning TV Dan. On YouTube, Dan's at Home. And you can follow us there. You can subscribe and see all of our updates on the channel there. So I thank you for your time this morning, and appreciate your being so patient with me. And I will look forward to talking to you again on Monday. And of course, we'll really be counting it down to Election Day by then. Again, go out and make it a terrific one. Be sure to reach out to somebody today. Do something kind. Do something kind for somebody else with no expectations of anything in return. You'll be surprised. It will come back to you, even though you didn't ask for it. It's always interesting to watch the chain reaction of a nice or a good deed. All right, go out and have a terrific one. Again, we'll talk again soon.